Hey everyone, and welcome back to the AI Insights podcast. I'm your host, Mazor, Kario, product design and AI expert, and the creator of the online leader program, Unlocking the Power of Generative AI. And today we're exploring the power of AI to drive innovation and change with the true pioneer in the tech world. Joining us is Mike Todasco, a visionary leader who spearheaded innovation at PayPal, building and managing their first innovation lab in Silicon Valley. Mike has a wealth of experience in pushing the boundaries of technology and fostering culture of innovation. We'll be diving into his insights on how AI is transforming not only businesses, but also personal creativity. Get ready for a fascinating discussion about the future of AI and how it's shaping our lives. Hi, Mike.
Indeed. Thanks for having me. I'm excited about the conversation we're going to have.
I'm too. So Mike Todasco is an AI writer and advisor, and I'm sure it's going to be really fascinating. So now we can start. So Mike, you've had an incredible career in tech, leading innovation at PayPal and much more. What was some of the most exciting projects you worked on, and what were some of the biggest challenges you faced?
I really look fondly to my time at the company. I like to tell people I was dangerously unqualified for every job that I had at PayPal. I mean, I was constantly being thrown into things with no experience, no background, and just being kind of like, well, figure it out. I went in there. My only tech experience was a failed startup that I had begun, and then I was thrown into a data analytics team where I didn't know anything, really. Data analytics in 2011 was a lot of SQL queries and all this. I didn't even know what SQL was. I had no idea what I was doing. And, broadly, those are the things I looked back fondly on, of just being like, wow, it was fun figuring that out and working with the team and just figuring all this stuff out together. So many of the things I look most fondly upon were not even successes. Probably the one product where I have the fondest of memories was a product called PayPal Beacon, which I'm sure everybody out there has never heard of before. But if you go onto YouTube, go ahead and YouTube anybody, when you're done with this, type in the words PayPal Beacon, and you can see the commercial that we made from 11 years ago now. And it was an amazing technology where you had a piece of hardware that would be talking to a phone, and it would allow you to do things like be able to pay at a retail location without actually taking your phone out of your pocket or your purse. Just walk in, it knows you're there, make a payment, you could order ahead with it. There's all these crazy things you could do. It was an amazing experience. We're just figuring out a new technology, working through this. It was a really small, really scrappy team. We would iterate. We had a couple places where this was in place, and it failed miserably. And when I say that,
why do you think
people in 2013 were not? They didn't want this. Nobody wanted to pay with their phone back then. Nobody was saying and we were literally testing this at Stanford University. So they have this street called University Avenue right in front. We were testing on a few stores that we had relationships with there, and all of these tech-savvy Stanford students in 2013 would tell us, why would I ever use my phone to pay for something in a store? And that's when we soon kind of realized, we were so excited about the technology, we forgot about the customer experience. But honestly, and I have others that didn't fail, but the ones I look most fondly on, Adi, to answer your question, were actually the ones that didn't succeed, but I just learned so much from.
Yeah, I think that in general, if you're into innovation, you need to be very curious and open-minded and to see things as an experience, not only reaching the end, reaching the goal, doing exactly what is needed, because it's new. When something is new, the first thing that it demands is curiosity and being eager to learn more.
And just no is one step closer to getting you to a yes. And these are the things that we all need to understand. Completely unrelated to tech, I've been on a kick for the last couple of years of writing some humor pieces. I just love to write in general. So I've been writing some humor pieces, submitting them to publications, and I just had my first one accepted. So went out together as a family together.
Congrats.
And all this other kind of stuff. And I was telling my kids, I've had 14 rejections leading up until then. And these are publications that for the most part don't even pay you money. So I'm getting rejected for a completely free publication that says they don't even want to post my stuff. And you know what though? But that's how I learned. And that's how the iteration, the feedback, and all of that, like to be an innovator and we all are innovators. I want to be clear with that. But like, just to kind of really embrace that mentality, you got to be scrappy. And again, you got to just take all those no's as not nows. And how is it that I can iterate? What can I learn from this? How can I change? And just stick with it for no matter what it is.
In general, I think that if you see any challenge that you face in life, not only as an innovator, entrepreneur, or whatever, as you see it, like not now, not yet, like what Karel Dweck is talking about, being flexible in the way that you see things and not saying like, okay, no, I'm a failure. I cannot do it. That's it. I'm going. Right. So it's very important just to see things as an opportunity. That's it.
We need to, you mentioned Carol Dweck, that growth mindsets that she popularized. Like, we need to all embrace that and just see these things as steps to getting us where we are. And frankly, one way to do this, and I learned this very early, I didn't even realize what I was doing at the time. Back in the olden days, when I was going to college, you would actually get letters sent to you saying that, hey, we don't want to hire you, basically. So you would get these rejection letters from all these companies. So I'm in college and I'm looking for a job. I want to land a job out of college. And I'm literally getting these letters in the mail. After getting like 3, 4, or 5 of them, I realized, I should probably do something with these. So I actually went to the dollar store and I bought these frames that would fit a piece of paper, 8.5 by 11. I bought a lot of them. And I actually decorated the walls of my apartment room with all these rejection letters.
Wow.
And it was actually, and it was cool, honestly. But it was a way for me to reframe the rejection almost into something positive. To basically say, like, it was like, hey, yeah, look at all these cool places like that didn't want me. I mean, it's half joking, half mocking. I eventually did get a job, but like with all those things, it comes down to numbers. I'm going to use a baseball term, which I know for many international folks it's not going to mean anything. But in baseball, the greatest thing to do in baseball is to hit a home run. That means you hit the ball so far that you get all the runs scored, everyone gets off. And that's what you want, but there's another metric called batting average. It's how many times you hit the ball when you come to the plate. And in the world of innovation, in the world of job seeking, in the world of so many things that really matter in life, batting average doesn't matter. Like whether you are 1 out of 10 or 1 out of 2, for getting a job, it doesn't matter. All that matters is you get that one home run, that you get that one hit. That really does matter. And I think so often people are too focused on, well, what's my percentage and all that. But like, no, that doesn't matter. Nobody actually cares. No, if I didn't tell you right now, no one would have ever have even known how many other publications I sent to my ideas and all that. But like, all of those things don't matter in life. What matters is that you actually get the big achievement that you are gunning for. And often it takes quantity of attempts to get to that one that really works.
What comes into my mind is finding a spouse. So actually, you need only one, right? Usually, you want only one, but I think you get lots of rejections.
That's exactly right. It doesn't matter how many dates, like, whatever that is, as long as you get that right person. You find that right person, and that is what matters in the end.
Yeah, you're right. So let's go into the domain of AI, and what is the biggest challenges and opportunities you see coming forward in that domain?
The biggest opportunities are for common folk like you and me, I would say, who are not actually building the models themselves and so forth. The biggest opportunity I see out there is that these are just going to revolutionize how we work, how we operate, how we interact with each other, how we think about things, how we remember things, all this kind of stuff. In a way that is going even much further than, mobile or the internet did or any of these other revolutions that completely changed our world. And that is a huge opportunity in front of us. And in many ways for folks out there who have an opportunity to use these tools, most of these tools are free or they're relatively cheap to actually use these things. If you would have told me 5 years ago that I would be able to access in plain English, or whatever your native language is, in fact, a model that is the strongest artificial intelligence machine learning model that the world has ever seen, and it's going to cost me about $20 US a month to do that, I would have said that's absurd. Because like in my experience with PayPal, my time there, like these things, you would have engineers earning hundreds of thousands of dollars building these things. Like it costs so much money, like, and they couldn't even do a fraction of what these models can do today. What you can get for $20 a month is just unheard of. And I think to me, that's the great opportunity out there, is to even just embrace what is already existing and just start to apply, start to bring those into your lives.
Yeah. And do you think that there are any risks we should think about before we talking about all the opportunities? What comes to your mind?
Yeah, of course. Look, AI has deep, deep biases. I will tell you one right now. So in the United States, before we're recording this, we're in the middle of there's going to be a presidential election very soon.
Yeah.
And so when you're watching this in the future, you
I
probably
think it's
know
tomorrow,
who won.
right? Tomorrow is
tomorrow.
the date for the final. Yeah. So it's like we're on the 4th and the 5th is tomorrow, right?
Yeah, so I'm going to be giving an AI talk tomorrow on the election day at Berkeley, which is University of California, Berkeley, where I went to school. It's an AI talk. And so one of the things I wanted to generate was a picture of Donald Trump and Kamala Harris hugging each other. And so I was using an AI model to do this. And because I wanted to kind of put forth hey, we're not going to talk about elections today. We're going to talk about AI. So let's all embrace, let's do this. Let's put that's the point of the picture and why I wanted to have them friendly, like hugging, embracing each other for the presentation. So just this morning, I was trying to generate that picture. And Adi, do you want to guess at the type of pictures that it was actually generating for me when I was doing that? It was sexualizing it. It was, it was doing all the things that you could possibly imagine going wrong. Like they were kissing, they were doing all of this, and and awesome. It was Harris that was being sexualized. These are things that AI does, especially unfiltered AI does. And this is something we all need to be aware of. Most of these models are trained on the open internet and all of the things out there. All the pictures that we have out there, all of the words that we have out there, and that's how these models have learned. So just by nature, if you ask for a picture of a man versus a woman, it is going to, unfiltered, these models are going to give you very different experiences of that. A man is going to be, built and strong and kind of, the stereotypical man, and a woman's going to be sexualized and submissive and all this other kind of stuff like that. Like this is just one example, literally this morning I was seeing with that.
Yeah.
And look, left unchecked and frankly with people being unaware of that, this is posing a problem because it's not only feeding back the biases and stereotypes we have and that we've put online, in many ways it actually magnifies it back to us. Just like if you believe something and you go on Facebook or Twitter or whatever your social network is, you get into a bubble because what the algorithm will do is it will AI algorithms that are used on social networks, it's just another use of AI. It is basically reinforcing your own beliefs. So if you think that the moon is made out of cheese, you will see every other post about people saying how the moon is made out of cheese coming back to you. It will reinforce that, and it's well beyond the magnitude of what you would see otherwise. And that's the same kind of thing these models do. And that's just one watch out, Adi. There is a lot of bad that could go wrong with it. It already exists today, and people need to be aware of all that.
Sure. So do you think, like me as a businesswoman who's thinking about the future of my business, do I need to think first about what it gives me as a person? What can I learn from it? Or I need to think like bigger? What are the advantages for a business to grow with these capabilities?
I think the answer is yes to that. It's both of those things, honestly.
Both.
Let's start you as a businesswoman. One of the things that these tools can do is they can be your coach. They can be, that sounding board. You can spin up and again, I have no financial relationship with like ChatGPT or Anthropic or any of these tools I'm going to talk about, just to be very clear and transparent. If you use ChatGPT, you could spin out something called GPTs, and these are kind of like custom models that you can make. And let's just say you're just starting a business and you can't hire a lawyer. You can't hire an HR team. You can't hire a financial analyst or anything like that. You can hire fractional stuff, but that can be expensive. I mean, we've all seen that. You can go on Upwork maybe, or But you could also, for $20 a month, get something that's going to be 70 or 80% of the way there by having these custom models that you can make for your business. Let's just take a lawyer, for example. You can upload legal documents or the contracts that you've had, or a template for contracts and so forth, and even say like, hey, these are the principles that I want to follow. Can you help me regenerate legal documents? And that would kind of be saved. And then you could go into that specific GPT you've created for yourself whenever, like, hey, I want to hire a new vendor. I want to create a contract. Can you generate one for me? And I want you to focus on this, this, and this. Or in the other direction, somebody sends you a contract, you could kind of have that thing interpreted and say, hey, does this look right? Is there anything that stands out that's like unusual in this contract or that I should be concerned about? You can do that. Now, again, I want to be clear. It doesn't replace a lawyer, but for people who are entrepreneurs, people who are starting their business, like, let's be realistic. They're not spending $300 an hour or $500 an hour to hire a lawyer anyway into these things.
For sure.
And at least to have a second set of eyes, being the AI, to do that, to look at you and say, hey, you might want to go deeper. It'll either save you on legal costs or whatever it might be. So those are all things, if you're a aspiring business person, you can start to use these modules to help you grow your business, to help you be more efficient and so forth.
You know, it reminds me of a story. I'm cutting you in the middle, but you know, it's not polite. That's what I did.
No, you're fine. You're fine. I talk too long. I talk too much.
No, it's fine. So it reminds me, like, I think like 3 or 4 months back, I'm starting to teach to lecture in an entrepreneurship school in Israel. And the head of the school came to me and said, you know, we want someone to teach product creation and UX with AI tools. Meaning that someone who's an entrepreneur who has an idea would just go to these tools, and he would not need someone from product, someone who's doing UX, someone who's doing research. He would not need any of these. He would have an idea, and he could just create an MVP even to the details. And I told him, you know, it doesn't make sense. You know, it's these people have expertise, and you need to understand what is needed, and you need to understand what are the limitations and what is the market and who are the users, so forth. And then he said, no, this is what we need. And he did not want to change anything in their requirements. And I said, okay, I'll do that. And I started building the course, and I finished doing it. And you could do everything with AI today as an entrepreneur, creating a first product from scratch with all these tools. Absolutely.
And I think the important thing to emphasize is like first product. Like, it's not, you know, one of the things that I've been doing with AI, I love to write, but back in 2022, I said like, well, I'm going to actually have the AI write and publish books itself. So I created my own separate AI pen name called Alex Irons AI, and this Alex Irons creates and writes books, and they go on Amazon, and I disclose that it's AI. The only thing that's written by me is the foreword to the books explaining kind of why and what I'm doing. But they have all these books, and like I will say, most of these books are pretty bad. I mean, they're nothing that I would actually read as part of that. You know, they're books technically, but like they're not that good. And because in many ways AI is almost designed, at least as it is today, to be average. Because it's by definition taking the good and the bad of the world and taking that all together, and what you see is kind of somewhere in the middle. And most of the books that people actually want to read aren't average. And I would think with product and design and all of these other kind of things, that's probably true too. If you straight up wanted to develop a logo for a maintenance company or a car repair shop or whatever you might have, it's going to do that, and you know what? It's probably going to generate an average logo for you. If you wanted something great, well, this might be a starting point, and then you're going to have to like bring on a designer as part of that. But like, and I'm not saying this to disparage AI, but I'm just saying this for people to level set expectations. If average is okay, then AI might be all you need. If you really do need something above average, have AI do the first cuts, the first pass, just like you said, and then say like, okay, well, let's change the design here. Let's do this here. Let's do this here. And this is frankly how I see our relationship with AI changing more and more. Like, you're not doing the very first iteration. You have a vision, you tell that to the AI. The AI very quickly is going to give you 10 different options. And from those, you're going to be able to choose one of those options and say, this is where I'm going. Let's tweak this and move forward with that. Our role becomes more of like the director of a film than anything else, where you have all of these moving parts, and your only job is to kind of decide, okay, which ones we're going to move forward with, which ones are working, which ones are not. Get rid of those, keep doing that.
Yeah. So could you share a few examples that you use AI in your daily life?
Yeah. Cooking is number one. I'm
Cooking?
a bad cook. Yeah. Oh, yeah. For sure. For sure. Couple different ways I used it for cooking. One is just outright generation of recipes. So in ChatGPT, I put all of our families, so it's me, my wife, and we have 2 kids. Everyone has different eating preferences, which can make it very difficult to make just one meal that is going to satisfy all. I don't like to clean pots and pans too much. I don't like to use a lot of measuring and stuff like that as much as possible. And, I have all these like constraints in there, but I put all these constraints into the AI and said, hey, given these constraints, what are the kind of things that I can make as part of that? And so this is a little custom GPT that I have. I can even do things like I could take a picture of the fridge and say, hey, given what's in this fridge, given the constraints, given what we want to eat, what do you think I can make from all of this? You can do that really well. Even during the process of cooking, I was making something, it was some sort of soup I was making the other week, and I'm like, this seems really watery. So literally, I took a picture of the state that I was at. I'm like, hey, there's only an hour to go. This seems too runny, too liquidy. What should I do here? So it can and then the AI can kind of see, it can kind of recognize that, and then it could tell you like how to adjust and so forth. Or I've made it where I'm like on step 8 and I'm like, oh God, I forgot to add the flour in step 2. What should I do now to fix that? And like, these are all things that, and again, it's probably average. This isn't like Michelin restaurant quality stuff I'm making for dinner, but it is the average of everything that appears online. And compared to where I was at before and where I'm at now, it's amazingly helpful to have that in the house. I'm at the point where I'm so dependent on it now. I don't know if I could make some basic things, but like it is just, it's now natural, my go-to. I'm like, something's wrong. Let's ask the AI about that. And it'll help me with my meal.
Wow. And in your work, how do you use it like as a professor or someone who's doing like speaking engagements and talking about AI? How do you use these tools? Yeah,
look, one of the things I love to do is write about AI, new technologies, where this is going. I've been doing that for since 2022 now. And one of the things I've really learned is while AI can't write stuff outright for you, I use it as a writing partner all the time. So my typical workflow in writing, and this doesn't just have to be for writing publications, it could be for writing emails or whatever it will be. I have a certain voice, I have a confidence in my voice, and I want it to sound a certain way. So I would never start with the AI, but I always do the first draft entirely myself. Often one of the things I do is I just leave like little brackets in there. Whenever I got to research something, I'm not sure about something, I'm trying to communicate this, but this isn't quite the right phrase. And then I will basically feed it into a tool, usually Claude is the one that I go to, and I'll say, hey Claude, help me out with the brackets. Give me like 5 options for each of those, or whatever the specific request might be. And it'll give me options, and I'm like, oh, that's actually really helpful. Like, and I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna integrate that and back and forth. Yeah. I actually will even have it, I will have it fact check for me, which is a very weird thing to use for an AI.
Yeah,
but like, so if there are facts, if there are quotes in there, I will say, identify what the facts and quotes are and tell me, are they accurately represented in the article? And it will go through it. And some of it won't know. Some of it will be erroneous and say, hey, this doesn't quite look right. And sometimes it will catch things that I'm just like, oh, geez, I did say that wrong. I need to fix how I said that. But even the times that it's not right, it's not like I blindly accept the AI. I'm like, okay, I need to look deeper on that one. It's just like having a kind of a junior editor helping you on any of these projects. Yeah. And I use it all the time with my writing, and it just makes you a better writer to be able to use these tools to help you brainstorm, to give you some additional thoughts or anything like that as part of it.
Yeah. And what do you say to your students when they're saying about using it for homework, using it in order to have ideas, using it? What would you tell them? How do they do it well? How do they really use it in a very sophisticated way and not just copy paste, which I guess some of them do?
Yeah. I think it's just you got to be smart about it and just kind of wonder what the end goal is going to be here. It's impossible. So one of the last piece that I actually wrote was asking people, I did the survey. I did a survey of 200 people from all around the world, and I asked 100 one set of questions, the other 100 a different set. The first set of questions were questions like, what do you feel about the ethics about using software like Microsoft Word or Google Docs to do spell check and grammar check? The second set of questions were, what do you feel about using AI tools to do spell checks and grammar checks? And basically, and now here's the secret, Microsoft Word, Google Docs, these are AI tools. Like when they're doing spell check, that is using AI to do that, except we don't think of it that way. And I was just kind of using it to measure the difference between those two things. And, you know, one of the things I found out, when you just use the word AI, people, as you could probably guess, especially in places like the United States, think much less favorably. They think it's much less ethical to do that. So the first thing that I tell the students is like, first kind of realize what is AI and what isn't. Because we're all, if you're using a phone, if you're using, you know, a social media site, if you're using Google Maps or Waze or whatever, like you're using AI today, whether you kind of realize it or not. But so first thing is just kind of recognize where the AI is. The second I would say is just like use it where appropriate. To me, the onus is more on the teachers than it is on the students themselves about making assignments that are not going to be just something that you can throw into ChatGPT and 60 seconds later have something that's going to get you an A on your paper. Like if you're generating that as an assignment today, that might have been okay in 2020. It's not okay in 2024. My son, he's 13 years old, and his writing class that he's taking at school, it is entirely done in the classroom. They do not have anything that they take home. All of their writing is done in the classroom. That's where the teacher grades it and so forth. And I think that's wonderful. Like, I think that's great. And I think that's important to do that. Is something being lost with maybe writing longer pieces and so forth? Maybe. But look, the reality of today is like, yeah, you can use these tools. You can fool a teacher and so forth as much as you could possibly imagine. But there's certain things of the fundamentals that are important to learn. Like, you know, in mathematics, there are some classes where it's okay to use a calculator, some classes where it's not okay to use the calculator. I don't think there's anything different with AI. So I think for students, it's important to kind of know where's the time where it's okay, where's the time where it's not okay, and to really frankly have those discussions with professors, because these are going to be part of their lives. To say that, hey, you can't use an AI to help you brainstorm ideas about something to write about, I think that's really falling short of like what these AIs can do well and how they're going to be helping us going forward. And so with all that, it's the calculator versus no calculator problem. So like to me, I probably talk to almost more teachers concerned about this than professors, and that's the feedback that I always give them.
Yeah.
Like more should be done in the classroom, and you should just assume that the students are going to be using AI. And given that, are you okay with that with the type of assignment that you are giving?
Do you think that everything, not only the type of tasks and your homework that we're giving, like everything related to education should change and adopt these technologies in a way that make people think differently, maybe being more critical about what they're hearing, maybe thinking what is real, what is not, where do you get the sources of information, so forth. Do you think that critical thinking is more important today, maybe?
Absolutely. No, I think you're nailing it. You're nailing it. I think it is more important. Like if I were a teacher in a writing or a critical thinking class or whatever, I would actually tell students, hey, I want you to go home today. I want you to use ChatGPT, and I want you to have it write an essay about whatever topic it is we're studying. print that out, bring that into class, that's your homework. And then in class, I want you to then take that and I want you to go line by line in that thing. And I want you to mark it up. I want you to take a big red pen, mark it up. Where do you think it's wrong? Where do you think it's right? Where do you think it's off? Like all of this kind of stuff. And I think something like that teaches those critical thinking skills. That's exactly what you were talking about. It really takes them from the point of just like blindly accepting, well, if a computer says it's right, to spending 30 minutes and just going through painstakingly and just say, oh, geez, that sentence doesn't sound good, or whatever it might be. And frankly, in many ways, then I would grade that. And I would just say like, hey, how were you able to think about this and think through this? And those would be the kind of skills that I would love to teach. You know, like if I was teaching like 7th grade, 8th grade English, like my kid is in now, like that is the one way I would utilize AI in the classroom itself. And I guess you could use it for other grades too, but like immediately that's one way to teach critical thinking with AI.
But for me, when I think it's not only for kids, it's for us as grown-ups. When we get some kind of information, maybe from the news, maybe in social media, it could be images too. It doesn't have to be text. How do we really trust what we're seeing? First, we know that more and more of the news that we consume is created by AI. And sometimes it's right, maybe sometimes it's wrong. Okay, so that's one thing. And all the images that we see, so many of them are not real right now. So right now we could maybe sometimes see that it's not exactly, but really soon we will not be able to differentiate. So it's the same thing.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. Look, I've trained an AI model on myself, and frankly, all of this, I will say, this is actual real mic. This is what it actually looked like for people who are watching the video here. But I trained an AI model for still images of myself, and it's pretty much indecipherable. Like sometimes, like I generated hundreds and hundreds of different images of myself. And sometimes I can tell the difference. Sometimes like I would show them to my wife or my parents or whatever, and they could maybe tell, but like these are people who know me best, who see me every day as part of that. So like pictures you're already taking with your phone are heavily, heavily filtered by AI and tools like that, whether you are asking for it or not. And the Google Pixel that I have here, the latest iPhones, there's so much software manipulation going on already with photos that it's not like that's the natural picture of you. It's already being manipulated. All this stuff for us is changing.
Right.
And Facebook recently reported their earnings, and they seem to be going in the direction where they kind of don't care. I think, to be completely honest, whether your news feed is a bunch of AI stuff or is a bunch of actual humans in there. I think it's pretty clear, as long as it's increasing engagement and you staying with the Facebook properties, that's what seems to matter to them most right now. Yeah. So you're right. It is going to be more and more AI. We as a human have an inherent bias that the first thing that we hear, even if it is disproven later, we tend to anchor on that first reaction, especially if we feel there's some truth to that there's some underlying truth to that. Like if I said that, Lego bricks, if playing with Legos like this that I have here increase intelligence of kindergartners by 10 IQ points, and I've said a few things with that, people might actually believe that and might actually latch onto it. And when somebody actually comes out and says like, oh, hey, wait a minute, we did a study and that doesn't seem to be, people are going to latch onto that. And I literally just made that up. And I'm sure there's some people even listening right now like, well, I guess that could make sense. Well, yeah, it kind of does make sense because it is teaching this, this, and this. But is this really going to increase?
Especially if you like Legos and you want to have a good excuse to play with it all day. So
yes, it's reinforcing your prior beliefs as part of that. For sure. And that's one thing that I think AI is going to get dangerously good at. It is going to be dangerously good at figuring out the kind of things we believe, or frankly, we want to believe, and doubling down on that. Because if engagement, look, the original sin of where we're at and the internet and all that right now is in many ways that more money comes to companies that own these sites, the more engaged their users are because they're advertising-based models. And if this continues to perpetuate, then the incentive is still going to be there to just keep you on. And we know one way to really keep you on and keep you engaged is to feed outrage, anger, whatever it might be, but things that are really going to fit into your prior belief sets or emphasize that or whatever it might be.
And especially going to the extremes and showing you something that would really manifest these very harsh emotions, and then you would be more drawn to this kind of content. And then you see people going to the extremes because this is what's interesting for them or appealing for them. But you mentioned a Pixel. It's my phone, by the way, too. And they already have this option right now that you could take a few pictures and then you add people to the image, right? It's the latest version. And you know that in many cases when we're trying to remember, so I love taking pictures and I have like tons of them. And I think that all of my storage more or less is like pictures. And when we want to remember our vacations as a family, we'll go to these images, right? And we already deleted some of the background people in the image when we used the pixel delete option. And when we'll, like in a year from now, when we'll go to see these pictures, we will not know if anyone was in the background that we wanted to delete or we really took the picture together or not. We would not be able to really remember that. So it's insane that we don't know what happened, really.
Yeah, that's a great point because we are already, we're going to be adjusting our future memories of the past as part of this. And I think, look, we already in photos and pictures, we try to put our best face forward. When there's a wedding, the bride and groom typically want to look their best. There's makeup involved, there's whatever other kind of stuff. Is that the actual person? Well, no, but as a society, we've kind of accepted that, right? And we've said makeup and like a fancy dress or something that makes you look more slim than you actually are or whatever it might be for both men and for women. These things are true. That's okay to do that. I think what's happening is this is like taking that natural inclination we already have and taking it to the next step with these tools. And it will actually start to alter that. And at what point is that not okay anymore? I don't know the answer to that. These are one of the reasons I love writing and talking about all things AI is because they really just start to redefine who we are as humans and what is important to us. We thought the ultimate test for an intelligent system for quite some time was something called the Turing test, where basically if you have a chatbot on one side versus a human, will a human be able to tell the difference between bot and human in 5 minutes or whatever it actually was? We have blown past that so far. Like it is completely undecipherable today, where 5 years ago it was still difficult to do that.
Right.
And it is making us question all of these things of what really makes us special in the universe? And that is, the exciting thing about all of this to me, is that we as a society are going to be different on the other side of this. And at least for now, it is very much up to our own judgment to kind of dictate and decide, what is the path that we all choose to take as part of it? I'm very optimistic. I see the downsides of it, but there's still so much good that we can create from this.
Yeah. You mentioned about the fact that what is human is defined by our use of AI. And one of the things that I had a talk about, these avatars, the AI avatars you could talk to, right? So you could have an image and a person that you talk to and you could relate to it. And when I had this talk, I think 5-10 episodes ago, we had a small clip saying that this will define what is human, because this is very similar to us. So what really is a human if you could have a relationship with these avatars and talk to them? And one of the comments on this short clip was, really. And it was really smiling and it doesn't make sense. Will AI tell us what's human? It doesn't make sense. But the fact that it's so similar really raises questions. How are you different? Or even having a relationship with these bots makes sense. What does it mean to have a real relationship than with someone chatting online and with a bot? Or even being in love with someone that is a bot and with the person, right? And you see
Yeah.
it already. You have Replica, for example, and other tools you could do that.
Yeah. I think there was a movie called The Matrix that came out, 25 some odd years ago.
Yeah, I love
and
it.
one of the
Keanu
characters,
Reeves, of course.
yeah, with Keanu Reeves, one of the characters in The Matrix, so The Matrix was kind of like a separate world that was kind of an idealized human world. Like the actual human society was in dregs, they're in pods, blah, blah, blah. But everyone's living in this like virtual reality, basically. And at one point, one of the characters makes the decision, like it was asked the question, like, which world do you want to live in? And I actually remember watching that film like 25 years ago and being like, well, why wouldn't you take the virtual reality world? And like, because like that's what the character does, and that's portrayed as being a bad thing.
Yeah, it's with the pills, right? It has like 2 colors of pills, right?
Right. Yes. Yeah. And in that, like, whether you want to live in that virtual world or in the real world, like you only have one life to live as a human. And if you can live in a fantasized world out there versus one that is hard and difficult and all that, like, I mean, again, I almost feel uncomfortable saying this, but like, why wouldn't many people make that choice to do that? And this is going to redefine so much. I've come under the assumption at some point, my kids in the future who are 13 and 11 right now, when they're adults, they're going to say to me, hey, Mom and Dad, is it okay when I come home for the holidays that I bring home my spouse with me? And then they come home and they have their phone and like, well, yeah, this is my girlfriend. Like,
Yeah,
and
it's
I'm
like the movie Her.
Okay. Yeah, like Her, exactly. Like, I've kind of resigned myself to that is going to happen at some point.
Do you really think so? Or you just, like, do you really think so that some people would decide to go for this option that is less real in that sense? Like, I could live all my life with virtual reality. I don't need to live in this environment, in this family, in this world. I can live fully immersed in something else. Would people decide that?
I mean, as crazy as it sounds
think?
to us right now, I think the answer is yes. I remember back when I was in undergrad, I remember one of the, I was taking a psychology class and it was a long break or something. We're back to the class. The teacher comes in talking to some of the students beforehand, and he happens to mention, oh, I just got engaged. I'm going to be married. And we're like, oh, congratulations. Where did you meet your spouse? And the teacher said, oh, I met her online. And I just remember like the laughter that came from the class when he said that. Like the fact, like what kind of a loser will meet a person online versus all the other, like in 1997, nobody met people online. Or if you did, like, yeah, you were a loser, you were whatever else and all that.
Weirdo.
I mean, it was a joke. It was literally a joke. And now in society, 30, 40% of people, I don't know what it is exactly, but like people do that. It's commonly accepted now. Do I think that we're going to have AI girlfriends and boyfriends? I think we're already there. You mentioned Character AI and Replica and all of these sites that already are going down that path. Look, and I'm not saying this is a good thing. I'm not saying that's a good thing at all. But like, I do see like it is going to be something that is going to, it's already happening on the very far fringes. But often what happens on the fringes at some point might be more accepted coming over or whatever it might be. And yeah, so I do see a future like that. Now, whether it's my kids, I don't actually know that. But again, as a parent, I'm just kind of living with the assumption that, at some point they'll bring home an AI.
So I'm going with that path. And one of your kids is bringing home this spouse. Okay. It could be a robot if you want. It doesn't have to be like over the phone, right?
Yeah.
So how would you react? What would you say?
Look, I think depends what age and everything. I mean, the one thing I know with kids, so I have a kid who's at least like entering teenage years now. And one thing you want to do, and I want to do the same, and this is as old as time, you know, part of what you want to do when you're growing up is you want to create your own independence from your family and, you know, and create your own identity and so forth. And part of that is, in most cultures is like doing things to rebel. And I would like to think that I would be, like, the other question I ask is, like, what's the world going to look like 200 years from now? if we would be having this same conversation 200 years prior, so it's 1824, and we were having a discussion of like, well, imagine if you brought home someone of a different religion. Imagine if you brought home someone of a different ethnic background. Depending on what that was like unthinkable in the world of 200 years ago. Absolutely. People would be banned. I mean, even today, in many societies, many cultures, that is like still unthinkable quite often. To me, look, the honest answer is I don't know how I'd react. The one thing that I would hope is that my kids would know that I would love them unconditionally. Even if I don't understand it, even if I don't get it, that's the one thing I would hope that they would get out of it. I hope I'm good enough of a dad that they would know that I'm still going to love them whether they bring home a man, a woman, or a robot that is their
I see. Okay. So I hope your kids are listening so they know they could do whatever.
I hope they're not. Because that's going to be like, okay, we're going to test dad on this. We're going to find out.
We have it on tape. That's it. Okay. So it's been lots of pleasure talking to you. Lots of fun. And I have the last question for you.
Please.
What would be your number one tip for leaders today?
For leaders out there today, here's what I would say. I'm going to maybe go slightly off the AI path and give this is really for managers more than leaders. A little bit of a difference between the two, but there's a manager test that I always kind of use out there, and I want people to just ask themselves if they would fall under this list. And this is how to find out if your manager is a good manager. Even if you have a manager and you're an employee, you can use this as well. It's basically just one question. If you went to your manager and said, hey boss, I have this amazing job opportunity. They gave me an offer and I think I'm going to take it, but I wanted to talk through it with you and see what you thought and so forth. How would you react? And when I say how would you react as a manager in that situation, who are you going to put first? Are you going to put yourself first? Meaning, this is a good employee. This is a great person for your team, great person for your company. Or are you going to put the employee first to actually say, do you know what? I know I can give you more, but damn, this is a great job. You should actually take that. It's going to suck. I'm going to be missing you. I'm not even allowed to backfill you, blah, 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 all this other kind of stuff that could possibly happen. Would you still say to your employee, do you know what? You should actually take that for a great employee. That's the test that I always use. And honestly, most managers I've ever had would have failed that test. I just know. But there's a special few that I know would have succeeded in that test. And that is the one question I would put out there for anybody who's a manager or works for a manager. Really have that thought. Because people say they put their employees first, but more often than not, they don't. They put themselves first. They put their teams first. And frankly, in many ways, that's what the company is paying you to do. The company wants to keep that employee as well.
Right.
But I would argue the best managers are actually ones who put their employees ahead of company. And is that the kind of manager you are or aspire to be? So just something to think about.
Thank you for that, Mike. So where can people hear more about your work and contact you?
I'm on LinkedIn and Medium under Todasco. I just write a lot on both of those sites about AI stuff. Come follow my newsletter. It's all free. Just say hi. I'd love to chat about any and all of this stuff today. And if you're dating an AI and want to tell me about it, tell me about that too. Open up my mind to it a little bit more than I currently am.
So you'd be ready for your kids in a few years.
That's right. So I'm ready for my kids when they hear this podcast in 3 years, and then they're like, okay, we're bringing home a thing to show dad.
Yeah, you're right. So thank you again, Mike. It's been a pleasure having you here.
Hey, it was a wonderful conversation. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you. And to all of you change makers out there, thank you for joining us. And I invite you to join my online leaders program, Unlocking the Power of Generative AI. And I'll see you next week with another innovative, insightful talk. See ya.